Being stranded on the side of the road in the middle of the Arabian desert is exactly what you don't want. And that's exactly what almost happened to us on the 700-kilometer long journey from Dubai to Doha. Fortunately, a friend of us noticed that the underbody cover of the Panamera had become loose. And luckily, the lift function of the air suspension was sufficient for these truck drivers to promptly get to work with wires and zip ties. I'm sure you've also seen such a flappy cover on some VW products on the highway. And Porsches from this period are no exception. Fortunately, we did not have to wait for hours in the middle of the desert for a towing service and were able to continue our journey just after 15 minutes. 700 kilometers from Dubai to Doha, the three of us in a Panamera which is packed to the brim at a constant 160 kilometers an hour, 3 straight lanes heading west along the Arabian Gulf and closely guarded by an armada of speed cameras.
They got Turkish coffee. Just.
Yeah, perfect.
I'll skip.
You skip?
Yeah.
Should we all skip?
After the majority of us had decided against the, I call it, authentic coffee house at the border, we went to the first border crossing and for me to the first visa office. So guys, yeah, and with that, welcome to Saudi Arabia. And yeah, it's a very scary border crossing. It's crazy how much security measures are in place here. Yeah, I wouldn't do it by myself without any locals, because on my own I think that would be a very long border crossing. Yeah, we now drive 1 hour through Saudi Arabia and then continue to Qatar. From now on we will continue our journey in a threesome, but first we have a coffee. And who would have thought that the border of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates has perhaps the largest selection of coffee in the world. And the Arab culture is just as amusing when it comes to who pays. In general, the aim is always to invite everyone and beat everyone else to it, which is why it is not uncommon for everyone to pull their cell phone and try to be the first to get to the card reader.
I copy you, now he's copying me.
He? Yeah, but
now
fine.
he's thinking to buy a Panamera after this
But it's
trip.
great, then we have no Panameras in the world. It's easy, it's easy. I already have his number. I will send him Panameras from Europe to get the specs.
Send it to me first.
Yeah.
Yeah guys, and this is how we have a lot of fun in the car, completely packed here in the rear, in the middle of the desert. And yeah, here in Saudi Arabia it's really beautiful. We just have one problem, the road is a lot worse and we're not allowed to travel 160 kilometers an hour anymore. And maybe you hear it. This car has a speed warning and we don't know why. We are not finding any options in the car, so I guess the first owner must have added something aftermarket. So yeah, we just have to live with it for 8 hours. In Saudi Arabia, the sun sets beautifully and the road conditions are much worse here. The speed cameras are now barely visible, which makes 120 kilometers seem miserably slow, and that ends in a rather amusing game of cat and mouse.
To make a piggy bank for the fines, for this or next trip, and then we all pay from that one.
Shortly after sunset, we reach the border with Qatar, and the border crossing here are generally enormous. When leaving the country, there are sometimes two checkpoints. One is to check the documents of the people. If everything fits, you get a stamp and leave the country. If you're unlucky, your vehicle and luggage will also be checked. Afterwards, you then go through no man's land, fenced with barbed wire to your left and right. On entry, there are 3 checkpoints. The first checks the documents of the vehicle's occupants and whether they match with the exit confirmation. If you don't have a visa, you must go first to the border office. This is followed by an inspection of the vehicle where all occupants have to get out. If something is conspicuous here, it can take a very long time. Finally, the vehicle must have insurance. If you don't have any, you have to purchase it on the spot. Only then you can enter the country. And if, like us, there is no long waiting time, no conspicuous behavior, the whole procedure takes about half an hour. The last 100 kilometers fly by, and the Panamera was naturally in its element on this tour. There really is hardly any other car that covers the kilometers like the big humpback from Leipzig. Welcome to Qatar. Yeah, 9 hours we've traveled with the car for 700 kilometers and 2 crazy border crossings. Of course, I had to get 2 visas, so without me the guys would have been a bit faster. But anyways, we've been quite fast. It's just amazing with the Panamera on 1 tank of fuel, 100-liter fuel tank. Consumption 11 liters per 100 kilometers. And with that you can easily drive the 700 kilometers non-stop. I'm really looking forward to the time here in Qatar. Nothing is planned here, everything here is very spontaneous. I have no clue, the guys have no clue. We will simply see what happens. And with that, we see each other in the next one. Till then, Allah, ciao.